section will cover prevention of safeguarding risks. Prevention is a really critical aspect of safeguarding. It's absolutely essential that we aim to prevent any and all safeguarding risks and incidents from happening. In many cases, with proper prevention and careful planning, we can avoid having to respond to safeguarding risks because we're preventing them from happening in the first place. So to do this, what we'll look at is both direct risks and indirect risks in our project. Based on an analysis of local power dynamics and the prevalence of gender-based violence, and also what we know about vulnerability to violence and exploitation of young people, we can identify both direct risks and indirect risks that stem from our project activities. So taking a look first at direct risks, these are risks of harm that arise directly from the actions, behavior, or presence of an implementing partner's staff, volunteers, maybe their consultants, representatives, youth leaders. The key feature of this type of risk is that the harm occurs because of what the organization or its personnel does or does not do. So examples of this in our project could be maybe SEAH, physical or verbal abuse by staff, by host organization staff, maybe by youth leaders towards our participants. This could also look like grooming, coercion, or inappropriate relationships with participants. We might see this happening among youth, from a youth leader towards participants. This would also include breaches of confidentiality, maybe retaliation against someone who reports misconduct, and also failure to follow our safeguarding protocols that could result in further harm to someone. So direct risks create direct legal, ethical, and reputational liability for organizations, and they trigger our safeguarding response procedures. So to prevent direct risks, some of the solutions we've already put in place are careful selection and vetting of our staff and of our partners, of our youth leaders, providing PSEAH training to all staff and all youth leaders, ensuring they understand the code of conduct, and careful monitoring of youth leaders while they're deployed. Now shifting to indirect risk, indirect risks are also really critical to understand. Indirect risks are risks of harm that arise from the way a program has been designed, delivered, or the way it might interact with its context. So even if no staff member commits misconduct, there could be indirect risks that result from our project. So these risks happen as a consequence of the intervention or the environment, but aren't necessarily specific abusive acts by staff or youth leaders. So examples of this might include training schedules that force participants to travel at night, taking increased risks for their safety, participation in the digital business program, or maybe distribution of cash transfers might increase domestic or community violence. Sometimes program visibility, for example, role models and profiling successful participants, could expose those participants to stigma, targeting, or backlash. And poorly designed referral pathways might re-traumatize survivors. So if we don't carefully plan and design that, while we might be providing a service, it might actually do harm. Indirect risks can often go unnoticed, but they systematically increase harm, especially for women, girls, children, other marginalized groups. So in our project, we do project level risk assessments to identify any local mitigation measures. This is also why it's important that we do our family and community engagement and outreach in the community to ensure that they are receiving information about the project, what it involves, how young people's participation has a positive impact for them and their families. And those activities are really designed to limit this backlash and preempt what might be a negative reaction with information that can minimize that reaction. So, if you'd like to learn more about how there is a link between backlash for women entrepreneurs and economic empowerment, we've linked to an evidence brief that folks can review at their convenience.